Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest. On this show, we interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, athletes, and artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges and adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is somebody I've had the privilege of meeting at conferences, seeing him online all the time, adding value, helping people, and of course, always posting these amazing posts that showcases what he does best. And what he does best is something I think is so important in this day and age, especially with kids and our children. And not only that, he helps adults as well, but focusing on kids and children, about developing lifelong skills, helping their confidence and helping their focus, which is essential in everything that we want to be successful in, whether it's martial arts, whether it's sports, whether it's business or entrepreneurship. We need to have focus. We have to have confidence. And that's what he's very good at, helping people develop. He is a contributing author of the best-selling book, Bulletproof: Unleash the Hero Inside Your Child. He's the owner of Aspire Martial Arts. He's also the podcast host of Business Life and Morris. So please welcome entrepreneur, podcast host, master martial artist, Mr. Johnny Morris.
Hey, thank you for that long introduction, man. It was pretty exciting. Thank you, Fong.
Hey, thanks for being here. Always a joy to see you and also speak with you. Every time you walk into a room, you always brighten up the energy, and it's always amazing to have you here. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
So share with us, like, you didn't come out of school thinking, hey, I'm going to help people with their confidence. I'm going to help people with their focus, all that kind of stuff. What was your journey? How did you get to where you are today?
You know what? That's a great question. As when I was 14, I also thought at the age of 14 that I just want to be a martial arts instructor. I absolutely idolize my instructor. My instructor is a Vietnam vet, and my dad's a Vietnam vet as well. So they made a joint venture to help me raise and learn self-defense and everything. I'm on a smaller size. So right now I'm only 5'8", and I was younger. I was just smaller than that. So my dad was concerned. And so my dad was like, I need somebody to help me with this kid. So he put me in my local martial arts school, and I just never looked back. But at the age of 18, me and my instructor had a disagreement on something. You know, he was protecting his business, which I totally understand now. And I kind of walked away bullheaded and kind of angry, not really understanding what he was doing. So I stepped away from martial arts for many years and then had the opportunity to come back. And then as soon as I came back, I never looked back.
Mm-hmm. Now, was martial arts something that you got introduced to very early, something that your parents wanted you to go on, or something that you wanted to do, or something you were dragged into?
No, never dragged into. I was offered it. Not even really offered it. I used to watch Kung Fu theater all the time. I would visit my dad on the weekends and jump from bunk bed to bunk bed and had a bunch of energy. And then my dad, I remember him telling me back, I think it was like in 1982 or 83, he said, we're going to move. We're going to move soon. And when we move, once we get settled in, I'm going to put you in karate. He calls all martial arts karate. And so I just remember moving in. A couple months later, we settled in, and I took a trial class. It was on a Saturday morning, and just got hooked from day one.
My first experience with, I think it was karate, was like an option at what was it? A weekend class and something like that. I was doing Chinese school and whatnot, and one of the options in the period was to do martial arts or karate. And they had us rolling on the floor. The floor wasn't clean. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. No more of this. So I never went back to any kind of martial arts and stuff like that. I wish I did, because from what I hear, it's one of those things that is so essential to, like, focus, confidence, discipline, and all those skill sets are so important in life. Now, for you, when it comes to those three attributes, why is martial arts the best way to implement that stuff in kids and adults?
It's structure. I believe it gives people, a whole household, a foundation of structure. You know what to do. You know what not to do, but are you still tempted to do it, right? You know the structure is not to do it, right? And if you do it, then you're not disciplined. Okay, so I believe there's going to be a still discipline and structure. And if you're not disciplined and structured, you have to have some type of repercussion. You have to. You know, if there's not some type of repercussion or some type of punishment, you're always going to push those buttons on those boundaries of, can I do this and get away with it? I look at it like right now, look at our society right now, from adults to children, right? There's so less repercussions that they don't even care about the repercussions. They don't care about the punishment. Let me go ahead and do this anyway. If I get punished, not a big deal. It's a slap on the wrist, on the wrist. But if we teach at least our kids from a younger age how to be disciplined, what discipline is, what a punishment is, I think we have a better chance of having a better overall civil society.
Mhm. In this, and you mentioned it about currently in this day and age, our society kind of veers away from the so-called traditional punishment,
Yes.
and what discipline is. And in my mind, discipline sometimes sound like a drill sergeant, very, very strict. It's my way or no way at all, kind of listen to me completely, being bossy and whatnot. How does one inflict and teach discipline effectively, yet not in a way that it's aggressive, if that's possible?
I would say the pros and cons. In a household, in my opinion, everybody's right to their opinion, but as a parent, you're the parent. You're not the child's friend. There has to be a structure. There has to be a pecking order in the household. If mom and dad makes the decisions for me, I'm dependent on my mom and dad. The parent is not dependent on the child. So there has to be a hierarchy in that household, and there also has to be structure in that household, as far as what we're going to be doing, who's going to say what. Like in my martial arts academy, I just tell everybody, listen, you need mom and dad, period. Whether you want to eat, grab new clothes, wear your Air Jordans and all that, you're not doing any of that for you. Your parents provide that for you. So in order for you to continue to get those things, you have to be disciplined. And I tell my parents, I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's your household.
Mm.
But if you're going to say, hey, I'm having a hard time with Johnny listening. Okay, well, why does he doesn't have a hard time listening to his friends on that PS5, on that Xbox? So he knows how to listen. He's just choosing not to listen to you.
Mm.
And there's a reason why. So if they figure out the reason why, they could really, help themselves out.
Mm. What have you found as some of the common, let's say, ways of discipline that aren't effective?
Taking their phone away. I right now I have a one child, incredible kid. Sometimes we're not perfect. We have a child. We love her to death. She's been with us for 7, 8 years. Her parents were saying, uh, I don't want you to go on a certain app. I'll take your phone away. They took her phone away, but she went on a laptop and contacted her friends through the app, the desktop version, right? So obviously taking her phone away is not going to be not such a big punishment. So there has to be something else to
Mhm.
take away. I think there's got to be something that's going to really, really uh not hurt them, but it has to make an impact. Like, perfect example, when I was a kid, martial arts, watching pro wrestling and listening to music. One day I came home with a not so decent progress report card. I would say that's our academics. My dad took my radio away. That totally hurt me. It crushed me. Cause I'm like, man, you took my boombox away. And I'm like, I got to get this stuff up. And another instance back in the day, my dad, I saw the master instructor of the organization that we were in. He was hired in my instructor in the organization that we're in. I saw him on a magazine, on the cover of a magazine one day, and I was like, wow, I only got a certain amount of money, but I want candy, but I also want that magazine too, though, right? I could have easily be like, hey, mom, dad, can I get the magazine later on or whatever? I wanted to take the magazine and pay for the candy. So I didn't think of the repercussion. I took the magazine, got caught stealing for it, which was great because it taught me a life lesson. But the clerk called my parents. Parents had to pick me up, talk to my dad, and my dad was like, all right, great. So you want to take the magazine knowing that we have money. You didn't have to take it. So I'm going to take you out of your martial arts class for 2 weeks. But when you get back, you have to explain to your instructor why you were gone. And you have to explain to all your friends why you were gone. And that crushed me right there. So that was the biggest, big discipline moment, punishment moment for me though. It was big enough for me not to make those mistakes again.
Mm. No, it's one thing to work with kids, your own children, with when it comes to discipline and also focus and confidence and all that kind of stuff. If it's another thing to work with adults on those attributes as well. Adults seem to have already got set in their ways, and they're lacking the focus, lacking the confidence. And how do you help them develop that focus skill set or that confidence skill set?
How do I help adults?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just ask adults, what do you actually want out of the rest of your life? We can't do nothing about the past, but from this day forward, what do you want to be able to do in your life? If you want to be able to do these certain things, go to vacation, make more money, whatever, you have to be disciplined. You know what to do, but you know what to do? You have an action plan, but are you actually taking action though? If you're not taking action on that action plan that you wrote out and these goals that you're going to be in the same spot, no
Mhm.
matter what it is. Is it financially, your household, your job, whatever your relationship? If you're not making any effort or have taken any action towards that goal or that vision you have, you're going to be exactly where you're at. And if you're unhappy right now and you continue, you're going to continue in a path of misery, you know?
Mhm. Yeah,
So yeah,
in the end, it's really the person needs to have that fire in their belly. They need to be somewhat self-motivated to really want to make that change, to really want to take that action. Now, when it comes to a time where, yes, they're taking the action, they're motivated, but they see some setbacks, they see some failures, they see some challenges, and they kind of go, "Oh, I'm getting like less confident now because of these setbacks. I'm getting surrounded by people who's telling me it's not going to work and it's not going to happen." What
mhm.
are certain things that you can help them with to kind of maybe either trick the brain or keep them motivated when things get hard?
I tell them failure is your best education. Failure is your best education. Now, if you fail and you say you put a lot of money into an investment or whatnot, a car, whatever it is, and it didn't pay off, whatever you think your payoff was, at least you know not to make that mistake again. If you make the mistake again, that is on you. You already knew that it failed. So why would you want to do the same thing to fail again? It
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense, right? They're going to sit there and say, "Hey, I failed. I'm going to give up." Okay, same thing. I said, "What do you tell your kids?" Okay, Mom, I failed a math test. Okay, just give up. You don't have to take another one, but you're going to get what you deserve and what you earned. If you're not going to learn from failure, just like being disciplined, that's what you're going to get, and then you're going to get a society, what we have a lot now, talking about, I failed, I quit this, I quit that, I quit this. Okay, you're just, in my eyes, a quitter
Mhm.
because just because it got hard. But you look at everybody, not everybody else, but a lot of other successful people. A lot of people look at people's success. I believe you look at the results of them learning from their failures. You look at the results of them pivoting in life. The buzzword a couple years ago was pivoting, right?
Mhm.
That's what they have. If you're looking up to different, gurus, I would say, they're not there for they're not in that position because they didn't fail.
Right.
They failed countless times. They're just not talking about their failures, you know? They're
Mhm.
not talking about them. I don't know if maybe they need to hear other people's failures more to not give up or whatnot.
Right. Now, you kind of talked about this at the beginning there, saying that during your journey, you were very upset with, I believe you said that your master who made a certain decision that you didn't like, and in retrospect, you understand why you had to make that decision.
Yes.
For you, you've gone through this transition of attending martial arts, learning, and all of a sudden go, you know what? I'm gonna become an owner of my own martial arts studio. What was that transition like, and what was that thing that you realized now why that person made that decision that they did?
Yeah. I highly respect business owners, entrepreneurs, because they're going to do what's necessary to keep their business afloat, to keep the brand name, the mystique, I would say, of their business. I really didn't understand that until I actually owned my own business. So, in a situation that when I was younger, my instructor right before I graduated high school was like, "Hey, I have to make this change, and you're not going to be part of this change until this happens in you. You have to decide. Either you're going to be with us or you're not." Right. And I was like, well, I'm not willing to give this up to stay, right? So I'm kind of like, oh, I thought he was gonna just brush it off. And not later on to life, I was thinking like, oh, he was protecting his brand. He was protecting his business. He was protecting himself, not just himself, but the business and everybody else that's in the community. So I didn't really understand that till I actually opened my own martial arts, business, I would say, and to figure out. And then years later, me and him had a discussion about it. And he was like, yeah, you're an exception to the rule. You made it. Everything would worked out fine for you. But, you're probably going to come up with the same decision in your business as well.
Mhm.
And it did. I did come up with the same scenario. And I'm
Uh,
like, oh, yeah.
Dang, he was right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, darn, he was right. But it was cool. I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't learn I would say this, he didn't make the mistake. He made an executive decision, and I made the mistake. I wouldn't say I made the mistake. I learned from it, I'll tell you that for sure. I
Now,
definitely
when you made the decision to own your own martial arts studio, was there anybody who goes, oh, don't do it, it's so risky. There's gonna be these expenses, you're gonna have to deal with this, you're gonna have to deal with this. What do you know about running an entrepreneurship business and all that kind of stuff? Like, have you gone through that phase too?
no, actually, I did not. Excuse me. I was working with a couple that had a fairly new martial arts school. I got there maybe about 8, 9, maybe less than that, 5, 6 months after they opened their commercial location. Friend of mine, long story, invited me to come watch the demonstration, talk to the young lady, and then she was like, "Hey, we would love for you to be a part of our growing business." So I was like, "Great!" Sign my kids up, sign my wife up. My wife is a martial artist as well. And a couple years later, we know in '08 and '09, the housing market crashed, and I was in construction at the time. They offered me a job, and it was like, "Hey, we'd like to hire you full time, but this is what we can pay you." So I'm like, "Great, no problem." But at the same time, I was thinking, I want to run a club. I still want to be in construction. And me and my friend were thinking about having a construction company as far as inspections go. And I was like, man, I could run a club, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, keep it low overhead. And then I started thinking, man, I'm going to be running two jobs at the same time. And the lady that I was working with, she was like, you know what? I think you definitely have the potential of running your own business, a full commercial business. You're going to be very successful at it because you know our CRM, you know how to work with kids, you have your own family already. And then my wife was like, you know what? I really think you can do it. I think, we have your back and let's just go ahead and do it. And so, beginning of 2000, end of 2012, 2013, we started looking and never looked back.
Hmm. What was one of the biggest shockers for you from being like an employee to becoming an owner?
That's a great question. Not understanding what a business owner really goes through.
Hmm.
As an employee, you look at somebody, you look at them as the business owner. You look at them get a new car. You look at them go on a trip. But as an employee, you look at the results of them owning a business, right? But you don't know actually the ins and out of how they got there, though. Until I got my own business, I was looking, okay, man, we got to run payroll. We got to pay the lights. We got to do this. We got to do this. We have to pay taxes. We have to do this. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I kind of think I threw myself into it without understanding the fundamentals of business.
Hmm.
I think if anybody gets into business, you have to know the basic fundamentals of business. You know,
How many times did you look at a business decision or a business issue from a perspective of a competition or a sparring match that you have? Like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this, I have to think this to counter this and all that kind of stuff.
all the time, all the time. Yeah, all the time. I look at it like this, like a sparring match, right? If he throws a kick, okay, what block am I going to do at what time? How's my foot position? The
Mm,
same thing. If I'm going to do a marketing campaign, okay, what happens if what happens if it's a small amount of leads, okay, at a certain amount of time? Well, we might have to throw a community event to
mm.
counteract that. Same thing. I look at everything that we do at our business as a sparring match.
Hmm. It sounds like, as you kind of alluded to, you were kind of thrown into the situation. You got, okay, I'm going to be part of this group. I'm going to be part owners or an owner of the studio. And then all of a sudden you're like, I have to learn this, I have to learn that. At what point do you go, wait a minute, I have to start delegating these things, like the creativity part or the marketing part, I need to find somebody else to do that. How did you start scaling your team?
You know what? Actually, maybe 2 years in, I was getting kind of disgruntled with things. And I really thought I was going to get some support. And I did. I did. As I look back, I did have some support from the people that I was working with, you know. And then I got a phone call from someone who wanted to meet, met with him on Zoom. And he was a business consultant, uh, business coach in martial arts. Very, very successful person. So we started talking. And then he was like, listen, this is your business. This is not theirs. They have their own thing. This is all on you. And so when we sat down and we talked, he was like, you were running your business on emotion, not by the numbers. This
Mm,
is a business. Business is run by funneling by numbers. And so when he broke that down to me, my whole mind shifted. It was like, wow, this is crazy. And I had lunch with my instructor one day. I take him out periodically for breakfast and lunch. And like I said, my wife is his student as well. And at the time, we had a son in college. Our son was in college, and our daughter was graduating high school, getting into college. And my instructor goes, my wife's name is Michelle. And he goes, Michelle's still working. And I'm like, yes, sir. He goes, why? And I didn't have an answer.
uh,
And he was like, she's still work. Why is she still working? You guys own your own business. And from there, that's the one I think I hit the ground running. It was like, it just shifted my whole mind. I'm like, oh man, he's right. And so he was like, he needs to then, like I said, he's like a father figure to me. So he started talking to me and I was like, yeah, he's right. It's from there, we just hit the ground running. I
mm.
think that was in 2015, I think it was 2015, 2016.
Right. Now, in case that's not enough for you to run a business and teach kids and teach adults martial arts, you also became a writer and also a podcast host. How did those two things come about? And also share with us more about those two so that people can chime in.
Yeah, for the writing the book, it was an honor to be part of that, be a contributor to it. I'm really huge in our business of doing community service. So we run multiple events per year. We have a bully awareness workshop. We're going on our 13th year. We have our child safety workshop as well, keeping kids safe. I have an autistic brother. He's 5 years younger than me, so he's had a hard time, a challenging time, I would say, as a kid, because we were kind of not separated, but just not as close as I wanted us to be. And so he went to another martial arts school, and they didn't know how to basically teach someone of his caliber. I would say he has superpowers, I would say, right? Of paying attention, I like to call it. And so I seen him, be treated differently from other people because I think he thinks it's just a different way. And so from then, as a kid, I've seen people bully other people. I've had little bullying incidents, but I kind of put that to a halt. But I look at it as, every child should have a chance to live the best life they can. And so this is why we always have a bully awareness workshop yearly for our community. And I got offered an opportunity to be part of a writing group for the book. And I just took that opportunity.
Awesome. And then the podcast?
Podcast team. I have a business coach that as well, and it was also he presented me an opportunity to reach the masses. He was saying, with the message that we have for martial arts and bullying and everything, and he thought it was a good idea, and it kind of took me a couple of years to get it all started and take the courage, I would say, to be in front of the camera and present myself in that way and think about not just I'm a martial arts instructor. He got me thinking a different way, is that you're a businessman who teaches martial arts. That's
Mm.
just one thing that you do. You're many other things as well. And so I got into the podcasting and I wanted to talk to people about how does your business affect your life? How do your business decisions affect your life? And how does your life decisions affect your business? as well. You
Mhm.
know, with being married, do you have a spouse, do you have a partner, do you have children? How do you balance all of that out? How do you work all that out?
Right.
Especially if someone who can't delegate, as much as we want to. So
Mhm.
that's how the podcast came about.
Cool. Now, since you mentioned that, I'm gonna put you on the spot then. How does one manage all those things? How does one manage home life with business life, with recreational life, with educational life, all that stuff?
Go back to a few minutes ago, we talked about the sparring match, right? The pros and the cons. I look at it like this: something's gonna have to give somehow, some way. You
Mhm.
know, back in 2015, all the way now, me and my wife, we really didn't see each other. We know we had different roles. She's in a managerial position at a hotel, and I was at the studio full time. I'm like, if I'm not managing myself, then my kids has to drop out of college.
Right.
My daughter just graduated a couple years ago from her private college. I'm like, if we're not going to be busting our tail in our business, then she can't go to that college.
Right.
That's not her fault that she can't go to the college. That's us not providing for her. She
Mhm.
did her thing and getting in there. So we look at everything as a sparring match. If we do this, this could happen.
Mhm.
If this happens, maybe this happens. Maybe you have to, push the gas on this and break over here a little bit. So that's how we've managed it. I think we did a good job, so far. You know, you know.
Mhm. Sometimes you sacrifice the hit for the win, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You got to win these battles to win the war.
Exactly. You talked about bullying a while back there. And so not only is there face-to-face bullying in kids, we are now dealing with cyber bullying, but that doesn't even just stop at kids. We have adults that are trolls. We have cancel culture, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How do you deal with bullying? How do you deal with approaching these issues? Is it best to kind of ignore it and not have it bother you, not read it? How do you deal with it?
No, I look at it like you got to hit this thing head on.
Mm.
Even as adults, you got to hit this thing head on. If you wanted to stop, you have to do something about it. It's not going to go away. It not even go away. It might even go worse.
Mm.
So why not put it to a stop? But even further back, whether you're a kid or you're an adult and you're having a bullying situation, okay? In order to stop the bullying situation, it's easier said than done. But you got to have the self-confidence to do it. If you don't have the self-confidence, nothing's gonna happen.
Mm.
Nothing in your business life, your personal life, or anything. If you don't have the confidence to do it, the confidence to be disciplined to do it, self-respect to do it, it ain't gonna happen.
Right.
So I think a lot of people have to work on confidence building, their self-esteem
Mm.
to combat that bullying. So if you can stop it before it even starts, I look
Right.
at it as the schoolyard is nothing different than the workplace.
Mm.
You know,
So sometimes you go to a workplace, but man, these are all kids.
exactly.
You mentioned confidence and self-esteem, and from my point of view, when you have good self-confidence, when you are highly have high self-esteem, then a lot of things that people say doesn't really bother you as much. You start to ignore it because you know who you are, you're confident in what you are. People say certain things, you just brush it off at certain times. How does one develop stronger self-esteem and strong confidence? What can
That's a
they
good
do
question.
on a daily basis? Like what's your routine about developing that confidence?
That's a great question. My thing is, one, for me, for self-confidence, is talking to people like you. It's that I look at as you, other business people, I aspire to be somewhat like them. What can I take from that person? What can I add to my tool belt? Working with certain business coaches, avoiding different people, and just adding on to my positive tool belt, I would say. You know, I also, I train martial arts daily. I hit a bag. I hit a bag, I kick, but my thing is too, some people do it a different way. I do it a certain way. Like if I'm training, I know I'm training for a specific situation.
Mm.
Like let's just say I'm doing a jab cross. I'm not doing a jab cross for fitness. I'm not doing that. I'm doing a jab cross. So if I'm going to a bar or an event or something like that, I need the jab cross to work. I need it to. It can't fail,
Mm.
right? It can't fail. I'd rather fail and jam my hand on a bag at home or my studio, but I can't fail outside.
Mm.
So I hit it. I hit the bag with bad intentions. Put it that way, you know.
And is it very common that people who are disciplined in martial arts and have the knowledge of it rarely ever get involved in altercations, like in real
Yes.
life?
Yeah, because we don't want to be involved.
Right.
We don't want it. I don't want to hit anybody.
Mm.
I believe no one wants to get into a physical altercation. Like, hey, I want to go out and fight somebody today. For what? For the risk of you getting hurt and die and mangled? That's
Right.
going to affect my family. You know, I'm like not the breadwinner, I'm saying, but I'm a very important person to my family.
Mm.
You're a very important person to your family, right? I'm not going to take that risk. But if you're gonna bring it to me or my loved ones, then I'm gonna have to react. That's just the way it
Mm.
goes.
No, in your experience, is there a very defining line between high self-confidence and high ego?
I definitely believe this. I
Mm.
think a person with high ego is not really a confident person, in my opinion. I
Mm.
think if somebody with a high ego is looking to get praised from other people, somebody with self-confident, they're feeling good about themselves. I don't care if you like me or not.
Mm.
I don't give you if you, you know, give me claps and applause. I could care less. I feel good about myself. I think somebody with a self-ego, there might be something hidden in their background that they're trying to get rid of and trying to get applause from somebody else.
Mm.
That's how I feel about it.
Do you see any scenario where people go from very, very high confidence and it kind of leaks over to high ego?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. I think a lot of self. Look at a lot of the how you say these self gurus, right? I'm not gonna say they're not successful. In a essence maybe they are really financially successful. But look, what you say, are you practicing what you preach is one of them. Two is if you're on a pedestal, remember you could also get knocked off that thing too, like very quick. You know, you could roll, you climbed up the mountain, but you
Mm.
could easily slip on a rock and roll down that thing as well too.
Right.
So and when you slip down that mountain, is there somebody there to help you back up?
Mhm.
If not,
Right. And that's something I think is very, very important to keep you grounded, to know where you came from, to know that it was a tough road to get to where you are today and people supported you and all that kind of stuff. You never forget the people who supported you. What are some things that you do to keep yourself grounded?
that's a great question. Uh, what I do is I think a lot.
You get punched in the face and you're really grounded. You're like, okay, okay.
Well, I'd rather get sparring rounds. I'd rather get leg kicked or punched in the face than go back to what I used to do. Me and my wife got together and got our first apartment. Our son was on the way. I was still working odd jobs, and she just graduated high school. I live right next door to a drug lab.
Mm.
So I look at it like, look, I live right next door. The next apartment over was they're cooking up drugs and everything. And, it was just a horrible drug infested neighborhood where we lived at. And I just remember, man, I'm never going back to something like that ever again. I'm never gonna go back to that ever. My kids will never see that again. No, my son was a baby, but I was like, I'm never ever going through that again. And
Mm.
when I visit a family member of ours, even as a kid, when they were kids, I drive through a certain neighborhood and be like, look, this is where mom and dad is from. I'm not putting the people here that live here because this is most of the time, this is all they have. But
Right.
do you want to be in this environment? If not, then you got to work, kid. You
Right.
know, because I can live like a king if we live back in the neighborhood. I can live like a king,
Mhm.
but I don't want to. So you have choices to make. You stay disciplined, and you have a better chance of having a better outcome.
Mhm. Now, let's put you on the world stage, and you have a couple of minutes for everybody to listen to Johnny. What is that one message, life lesson words of encouragement that you would like to send?
Pursue your self-confidence and stay disciplined.
I see
Way,
that.
yeah, you know, pursue your confidence, stay disciplined, and way and keep your vision. You know, every action that you take in your life should be towards that vision that you're looking towards. You know,
Awesome. Great words to live by. Now, before I let you go, I got five quick rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that
sure.
comes to mind. Stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. So you'll still be ripped,
Rice,
right?
rice,
Oh wow, nice and plain.
rice.
Lots of carbs, but
Carbohydrates, burn it off.
Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, Johnny, we love your story. It's very inspirational. We would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Ooh, man. Who is this? Who is that? Who's the doctor? A biopic. Let's say my son.
So your son gets the role,
My son is right.
and he would love to. He comes to you and goes, "Hey, Dad, I would love to get to know your whole past, all the stuff that you went through, so I could play you, so I could do you justice." How would you show him all that stuff that you went through?
Wow. I would unfortunately my dad passed away. I would first have an open discussion with my mom. I would have an open discussion with my mom, and then I would have an open discussion with him and my instructor, and then I would take him to every neighborhood that I lived in.
Mhm.
You
Very
know,
nice.
and yeah.
What's your intro music? You're going to the ring. What's that song that always plays when you walk in there?
Public Enemy, Rebel Without a Pause.
Nicely done. What else? Two more questions, and that is, you're on a you're skydiving, and you need to bring one thing with you to skydive with. What would that be, and why?
Ooh, uh, I would bring a picture of all of my family members.
Cool. Awesome. And my last question is, what is success like? But give me a number from 1 to 5.
Success.
Give me a number from 1 to 5.
1 to 5. 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. So I have the word shampoo. So how would you use shampoo as a metaphor for success? How is success like shampoo?
Success is like shampoo. You could always wash out the flakes on a daily basis.
Nicely done. So that's how shampoo is like success. Thank you very much for your time and your stories and your tips here. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, to learn from you, to either get a copy of the book or follow your podcast?
Yeah, feel free to call me on my cell phone number. I do a lot of business on my cell number, 619-654-7709. And our business email that I always answer is aspireMarsd@gmail.com. And also you can follow my Instagram page, which is going to be at Johnny Morris Official. And then we also have our business page for Aspire Martial Arts is at aspire_MA.
I say that. Well, thank you very much for your time. Any final words from you?
Yes, have fun, live life, stay on your path.
Awesome, and we'll end it there. He is Johnny. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to lock your peak potential. We'll see you later.